All right, let's go, because you know what I came here to do.
I don't get paid for overtime. I'm here to fight.
Okay, so Eddie Hearn and Matchroom have signed a 3-year extension with Dazn for America and Mexico.
Big up Sporting Icon. So it was 2018 when Thomas Delorme fought Jesse Rodriguez in Chicago. They fought to a draw. That was the first card at Matchroom, USA, done on Dazn. We're in fight week now, Canelo versus John Ryder. You'll get different opinions depending who you ask how well Eddie has done in America. In defense of Hearn, it hasn't been the most productive period in American boxing that I've seen anyway. That's exemplified by the fact that fights like Spence and Crawford still not finalized as yet. Hopefully it will be soon. And then you got Showtime putting a number of underwhelming pay-per-views on the network at inflated prices, it has to be said. That hasn't been good. I think the Mexican venture has worked out pretty well for Matchroom, and that might be the deciding factor on why they got the 3-year extension, hooking up with the likes of Eddie Reynoso and people in the infrastructure over there. Canelo, Julio Cesar Martinez, who's fighting on the undercard of Canelo Ryder on Saturday, Mauricio Lara. That's been a good move. So on the undercard of Ryder Canelo, a couple of fights to look out for. Vodzik, he's back. Second fight since 2019 where he lost his WBC belt to BETERBIEV. And Valencia versus Steve Sparks should be a good fight. Julio Cesar Martinez, he's also defending his WBC flyweight title. So it's a pretty good card. Well, especially if you're not paying pay-per-view for it, like we're not in the UK. So no complaints from Beats, no complaints.
And I think you're going to see now us looking to mix our UK champions over here as well, more on main event. I mean, I'm looking at the likes of Josh Warrington. You know, could he fight over here? Could he fight a Ray Vargas or someone like that? Joe Cordina. Of course, we want the unifications at home, but he might be looking at a big US fight as well. You know, Callum Smith. So many other fighters could be Lee Wood. Obviously, Mauricio Lara has been boxing in the UK, could return back soon. Sonny Edwards, you know, could fight Bam Rodriguez. I think you're going to see, although we want to make sure that obviously we have a big schedule in the UK, I think you may see now our main events feature US headline stars from Matchroom against UK headline stars, or, you know, into promotional bouts as well. But a mix now, because that's key for us with that global platform, to make sure that we can deliver for our fighters internationally.
Well, we'll see how that plays out, because the British media and a lot of the cynical British boxing fans will say he's going to sacrifice the domestic market to make good on the 3-year extension in America and Mexico. You know, bring Sonny Edwards over to America, bring Joe Cordina over to America, when they was talking about re-establishing Wells as a potential market. That's what they were saying when Cordina won the belt first time around before he was stripped. But now he's won it again. They're talking about shipping him off to America. Sonny Edwards, the likes of Josh Warrington, although he doesn't have a strap. I did say this the other week. I mean, like, I think if Eddie had the choice right now, he would just piss off the domestic boxing over it. I think he'd just piss it off. Not totally. Like, if you can do AJ in a stadium and you can do stadium fights, yeah, and big UK events, cool. I don't think he has the time to satisfy the demands of what the American market wants and the UK market. I just don't think he does.
Choose one.
He'd probably send Sonny Edwards to Mexico for that Martinez fight as well, if it does big gates and big numbers. What does that mean for domestic boxing in the UK? 3-year extension in America or Mexico? They want world title fights out there. That's what they're going to want. They're not just going to want random domestic fighters over there. And it will be at the expense of the domestic scene. Because what's the incentive for Eddie to put a whole load of resources into domestic boxing? He's been there, done that, wore the hat and the t-shirt a couple of times. He's just going to let the market look after itself to a degree. And hopefully the established fighters that he has over here will produce good. They'll produce good and be able to challenge for titles and be good ticket sellers, put up good viewership numbers. I'm talking about the likes of Fabio Wardley, Dalton Smith, British champions who perhaps have higher aspirations. He'll be hoping fighters like that will be able to take advantage of DAZN opening up a Sky Channel, Virgin Media outlets as well. I tell you what though, you ship Joe Cordina over to America, then Welsh fans are not going to be happy, Eddie. I tell you that now. They want to see Joe defending in Wales, and hopefully he can replicate some Joe Calzaghe magic and take it to the Millennium Stadium. The Welsh will want Joe Cordina all to themselves. There'll be people who will travel over to America to watch him fight, but they want him all to themselves. I believe that's what they thought they was going to get, especially when he's coming out with Joe Calzaghe. He's getting all sentimental, but, you know, business is business. I mean, when this 3-year extension is up in 2026, depending on what Eddie does in America will depend if there's another 3-year extension. It is what it is. Whoa, so David Light, the New Zealand challenger, who went the distance with Lawrence Okolie and took some massive shots and walked through them and went the distance. He felt fine after the fight that took place on the 25th of March, Manchester Arena. The 31-year-old New Zealander, however, began to feel unwell on April the 5th. An initial CT scan was clear, with no issues appearing on the scans. He was diagnosed with a delayed concussion and discharged. After his symptoms continued, Light was admitted to Waitakere Hospital on April the 17th. A second CT scan was also clear. David then received a contrast CT scan, which revealed a blood clot. Top Australian promotional company No Limit Boxing issued an update on Light's condition. He is recovering in an Auckland hospital after suffering a mild stroke and undergoing clot retrieval surgery. He is being monitored closely and updates will be provided on his condition. Light, he feels very positive and expects to fully recover, but basically that's the end of his boxing career. That's the end of his boxing career right there. And it shows you how dangerous the sport is. Like, Lawrence Okolie didn't do that bad in that fight, and he got a lot of criticism because he couldn't get the guy out of there. There should be more of an understanding. I know everyone is judged at the highest standard, and I get that. But they're taking hard punches in there. Like, Lawrence Okolie is a cruiserweight that is possibly rehydrating up to 215 in the ring. 6'5", excellent leverage. And even if he's not knocking people out, he's doing damage. You know? We wish David Light the best. He finished by saying, "This is like another fight camp for me. I've got to train hard, rehab, and work on getting better." And it's funny, like the first comment is defense is important in boxing. Get well soon, David. And, you know, look, let's keep it real. Entertaining the public is very important as well, or you're not going to make no money. But the balance is very delicate, isn't it? Defending yourself from taking too much punishment and satisfying the punters so they'll turn up again and pay for your pay-per-views and pay at the gate. David Light was a mandatory contender for that WBO scrap, so it's not like Lawrence cherry-picked him. And everybody was shocked at his durability. But at least most people were. I certainly was. I thought he'd go in about 3 or 4 rounds. But he took all of Lawrence's shots and he's paid the penalty. But going by what he said, what he has in his favour, he has that warrior mindset that this is just another training camp where I've got to work hard and get better. And that kind of positive attitude leads me to believe that David Light will be okay. He'll be okay. You know, like Chris Billiam Smith, I know he's got Shane McGuigan training him. So they'll be thinking they've got the inside track on Lawrence Okolie. But I don't feel he has much more option but to try and bustle Lawrence out of his stride. And he doesn't have the greatest head movement. I seen rocked by Isaac Chamberlain a couple of times in the fight. And even the guy who was handpicked, where he scored the spectacular knockout, he hurt Billiam Smith. And the Okolie fight on the 27th of this month in Bournemouth, it doesn't look good for Chris. I'm not saying he's going to end up like David Light, but he's going to take a lot of punishment as well. He's going to take a lot of punishment. Your defense in the ring is the only thing in between you ending up like David Light or worse. Let's be blunt and factual. Lawrence Okolie, 14 stoppages in 19 wins. He's not a man to be toyed with at cruiser. He's not a man to be toyed with. It almost makes you wonder what is the worth of having purse bids for these title fights where the champion is getting 70% and the challenger 30, you know. I mean, Eddie Hearn could have tremendous faith in Callum Smith, but does he overpay the fighter that he doesn't promote just to get Callum the title shot? So the winning bid, predictably, Eddie said he wasn't confident of winning the bid, goes to Top Rank, 2,115,000. Only 15,000 more than the 2,100,000 that Matchroom offered though. So, you know, BETERBIEV, he's entitled to 70%. He'll get a purse of 1,332,000. Smith will get a purse of 570,000. The remaining 10% of that purse bid will be awarded to whoever wins. So, a lot to play for Callum Smith and for BETERBIEV. The date and site have not been verified as yet. ESPN will televise it because Top Rank has an exclusive output deal with ESPN. It went to a purse bid because Yvonne Michelle, who handles BETERBIEV's affairs, couldn't reach a deal with Matchroom. The two promoters were given additional time to work out contractual details, but eventually a purse bid was necessary. BETERBIEV, 19-0, 19 knockouts, unified light heavyweight champion against Callum Smith. 29 wins, 1 loss, 21 inside the distance. It's a great opportunity for Callum, you know, like BETERBIEV, not getting no younger. Callum looking $1 million at 175, but it should be a good fight, more importantly. It should be a very good fight. Apparently Rick Merigian, he pulled Arnold Barboza out of the Liam PARO fight. Matchroom already won that purse bid. Key points, money, not enough, less than he earns right now. 1 fight left with Top Rank. Can't get other fights because of Top Rank's depth at 140. Calls out Regis PROGRAIS. He says Arnold Barboza is not an 80 grand fighter. Matchroom, as they have all the budgets they work off, and that's to be respected. But I have situations where they may offer 100k and I got my guy 550k elsewhere. Arnold has far larger fights at far larger money. That number was a number everyone knew would not work. Okay, so it's all about the money. It was all about the money. Pretty much, you know, it's Rick Merigian / Top Rank's decision not to go through with that fight. Like, he said it himself, the depth they have at 140 at Top Rank, why are they going to fight for 80 grand against Liam PARO? Aram just doesn't like his fighters fighting on other networks. Let's keep it a buck. But I heard Arnold Barboza complaining about a lack of opportunities. Well, I don't want to hear that anymore because, all right, they're pulling out because they're not getting enough money. Listening to what Rick had to say, Matchroom didn't put up enough money. Well, Matchroom don't promote Barboza. If Top Rank fought the fight or Barboza would worth more, they would have bid more. I mean, he signed to Top Rank. That's how much Top Rank think Arnold Barboza is worth. 80 G's, Rick. 80 G's. Let's see you get these bigger fights and this bigger money. And I'm not going to go through what Arnold's previous purses were. If they were more than 80 grand, cool. Go get that money. You know, PARO was to be split 60-40 in his favor because he was ranked higher. I don't know how much time has elapsed. I think they're waiting on Jose Ramirez's decision if he wants to take the fight. Then after that, it's a Uzbekistan fighter named Shohan Agashev. If I butchered your name, apologies. He's 23-0 with 20 knockouts, who they're saying has so far unsuccessfully failed to secure an opponent for a proposed IBF junior welterweight title eliminator. Well, he might get elevated to the final eliminator at this rate. From what I'm hearing, Ramirez ain't going to take that fight with PARO. I mean, he's top rank as well. I mean, he certainly ain't going to take 80 grand. He turned down a lot more against the likes of Conor Benn, saying he earns more. Regis PROGRAIS out of contract right now since the fall of Pro Bellum. There's a lot of reports that he's reportedly close to joining Matchroom, or that he actually has joined Matchroom. I don't know what to do with it yet.
You put an Instagram story up, being in Houston yesterday.
Yeah.
Regis PROGRAIS put out a story to say he had a very important meeting. I'm sort of guessing here you met. What can you tell us what happened?
Yeah, I met Regis in Houston last night. We had a very nice dinner. There's nothing agreed. Mike Coppinger messaged me a week ago. Oh, I hear you've signed Regis. I said, no, I haven't. No, come on, let me break the news. I said, look, I'm not going to lie to you. We haven't. We're in conversations with Regis PROGRAIS. So are Top Rank. I guess PBC are as well. We would love to welcome him to the team. I think he's a tremendous fighter. But we have not reached terms yet.
I think Eddie's being a bit cautious. I think they're likely to sign Regis PROGRAIS because I think they're going to get the checkbook out because they don't have much American champions on the zone. You're like, okay, you've got Bam Rodriguez, Mexican, American, but the flyweights don't really attract as much attention to the fighters who are south of, let's say, 135, 140. Mauricio Lara, 126, doesn't speak English. You know, like, look, they got Canelo, obviously, fights a lot in America, but there's not much champions there above, let's say, featherweight who fight in America with regularity. This is why he's saying he's going to bring the Brits like Cordina and Sonny Edwards over to America. Like, they can't fill the void of championship fights required in America, and something drastic has to happen with this 3-year extension. They need to sign Regis PROGRAIS. He's 34. He needs a good situation. He needs to get good fights, and he needs to be amongst the big money. It looks like a must sign for Matchroom, unless Top Rank, really come out of pocket and take the signing from Matchroom. I don't think the PBC are going to go for PROGRAIS. I mean, they have enough trouble getting the fighters they have there dates. I don't see it. The Fox situation is done as well. I don't see that happening. I don't see it happening. And do they have any marketable world-class 140-pounders for PROGRAIS to fight over there? They've got Rowley fighting Barroso for the interim WBA title. Will that interest PROGRAIS? Will the PBC sign him for that? I mean, Rowley's getting killed in that fight. Oh yeah, PBC got Subriel Matthias. They got Subriel Matthias. PBC might be in a strong position to challenge for him then. Matthias is the IBF champion. Top Rank have Josh Taylor. DAZN have no strap holders at 140 at all. But if they sign Regis, Sandor Martin could be the first challenger. He's ranked number 1 by the WBC. He could be the first challenger for PROGRAIS. So they can keep that in-house. There's the likes of Jack Catterall there. If they don't call up Sandor immediately for a mandatory, the Jack Catterall fight would be quite big in the UK for DAZN and Matchroom. Tony Bellew has a pair of David Haye wins. Is he trying to get him to appreciate quicker by doing his little spin here? He says that the David Haye of 2013, now I'm going to set it all up, right? So that way you're going to either have to go do the research or you know it off the top. David Haye, who was, let's say, 32 at the time. 32 at the time, a year and a half removed from the Tollgate debacle against Klitschko, came back in 2012 and knocked out Derek Chisora in a good performance, then pulled out of 2 Tyson Fury fights in 2013. The question is, could he beat a Tyson Fury who had 2 fights with John McDermott, one very controversial in 2009, won the second one convincingly, that has to be said, edged past Derek Chisora? Well, I would say edge. He unanimously outpointed Derek Chisora, but it was a tough fight. Was put on the floor by Nevin Pikic in 2011, and again put on the floor by cruiserweight Steve Cunningham in 2013. He did come back and knock Cunningham out in the 7th round. Tony Bellew says David Haye was one of the best finishers this country has produced, and if he had you hurt, he would normally finish you off. The other argument is he hit a lot harder than Steve Cunningham, similar size as David, small heavyweights, both cruiserweight champions. In fact, we never got to see that undisputed fight between Cunningham and David Haye. We never got to see that fight. That would have been probably around 2009, 2010 the latest, a David Haye, a Steve Cunningham fight. I might put a poll up for that as well. But the main poll is, Would that version of David Haye 2013 have beat that version of Tyson Fury? Tyson Fury was 23. Or did David Haye pull out of the fights because he didn't think he could beat Tyson Fury? Or was Tyson Fury too clumsy and not the Tyson Fury that we know today? And Haye would have took advantage of that? There's a poll. The link is here. Contribute. I'd like your contribution.
Steph. Big Steph is there. I think he shot. I think after Usyk, that's it. He's finished, and that's what I'd like.
Is Hughie trying to cash out? Couldn't blame him. You know, I mean, it's very stop and start with Hughie, isn't it? Well, I don't want to do a triangle theory. It would be beyond a triangle theory, more like a hexagon theory, because Hughie's losses have been at the hands of Povetkin, Anthony Joshua victim, Parker, Anthony Joshua victim, Pulev, Anthony Joshua victim. All the P's. Parker, Povetkin, Pulev, all the P's. I tell you what then, let me throw my threepence in then, Hughie. What is it that Hughie does better than Anthony Joshua? He's saying after the Usyk fight, he's finished. What would Hughie do against Usyk? Is the question. Hughie has a decent chin, but AJ will hit Hughie. He's not elusive like his cousin. He's hittable. He retreats into his shell and it's very defensive. He's been very inactive. AJ will hit him with a couple of 1-2s, and Hughie is quite a sickly kid, no disrespect. That skin is going to bust open like a paper bag and flood claret all over the place. And AJ will be fucking wearing white shorts, asking Peter Fury, can you stop the fight before Hughie ruins my trunks? Hughie's not beating Anthony Joshua. You're not beating him. You can say big stiff all you like. You know what would be a better fight for Hughie? Is Jermaine Franklin. That would be a better fight. In fact, here's another poll. Hughie Fury versus Jermaine Franklin 2023. Who wins? And with that, I'm out.